Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the next episode. Last time, we left off when Luka asked Kinyuan about their location, and Kinyuan revealed it was the hottest place in the entire empire, the Colosseum. This episode begins. Two guards stand outside a heavy iron door. Inside, a dimly lit room glows under a crimson ring of light. The air is thick with smoke, the scent of burnt tobacco lingering. On one side of a lavishly decorated table, Kinyuan lounges on a worn-out sofa, his expression unreadable, while behind him, Luka stands silently, observing. Across from them, a large, heavy-set man, draped in gold rings, reclines on an opulent leather couch. His cigarette burns between his fingers, smoke curling around his irritated expression. Behind him, two armed guards stand alert, their fingers resting on their holstered pistols. Without hesitation, Kinyuan gestures toward Luka and speaks coldly. Put this guy in the match. I don't need a cut, and it's all fine if he dies fighting. Luka's mind races as the words sink in. So this is why Kinyuan told me to come with a low-output body. The fat man inhales deeply, taking a slow drag of his cigarette before exhaling a thick cloud. Then, without warning, he flicks the burning cigarette toward Kinyuan, a subtle yet aggressive act. The cigarette spirals through the air, rolling fast, aimed directly at Kinyuan's face. Just as Kinyuan begins to move, Luka's hand snaps forward, catching the cigarette mid-air with effortless precision, without even shifting his stance. A sudden click. The two guards behind the fat man instantly draw their pistols, pointing them at Kinyuan and Luka. Unfazed, the fat man raises a hand, his thick fingers barely visible under the glow of his rings. His voice is slow, measured, but laced with menace. You seem a little confused. We didn't let you in because we wanted to grant your wish. We called you to a place where it's easy to dispose of a corpse. Luka's eyes flash a sharp blue as his mind analyzes the situation. A bluff. If they truly intended to kill us, they would have done it already. His gaze quickly scans the room, three pistols aimed directly at them. Two more guards stand posted outside. His mind races, calculating every move. A simulation runs through his thoughts, his battle instincts constructing the most efficient way to neutralize the threat in seconds. Step 1. Flip the table, force the guards to react. Step 2. As they dodge the incoming table, punch through it mid-air, striking the fat man directly. Step 3. Grab his weapon, use him as a shield to block the first shots. Step 4. Neutralize the two guards in front with precise headshots. Step 5. Before the two guards outside can react, leap into the air, land above them, and eliminate them both. Standing behind Kinyuan, Luka narrows his eyes. Simulation over. Kinyuan breaks the tension, his voice casual. What happened to the previous owner? The fat man exhales slowly, lowering his gun. He leans back into the sofa, his tone dismissive. You know Tora? He's dead. Got caught rigging matches. Kinyuan lets out a low chuckle. He nods knowingly, piecing together the situation. So you killed Tora and took over the Colosseum. It's a profitable business, after all. We were old friends, but I don't intend to fault you. He also killed the guy before him to get to that position. It's a natural occurrence in these streets. The fat man's expression twisted with rage as he listened to Kinyuan's words. His thick fingers clenched tightly around the pistol, and with a sharp motion, he rose from his sofa, stomping toward Kinyuan, who remained seated, perfectly calm. With a growl, he pressed the barrel of his gun against Kinyuan's temple, his voice filled with barely contained fury. Hey, how the hell do you know all this? Kinyuan's expression darkened, but there was no sign of fear, only cold, unwavering authority. He didn't even glance at the weapon aimed at his head. Instead, his voice dropped to a chilling tone as he replied, Olaf. I'd calm down if I were you, unless you want to end up next to Tora again. Silence filled the room. The name Tora sent a visible shock through Olaf's body. His face paled, and a sudden wave of panic and sweat overcame him. His once threatening glare was replaced by fear, his pupils trembling. Realizing what he was up against, Olaf quickly stepped back, lowering his gun and sinking back onto his sofa. With a silent gesture, he raised his hand, signaling his guards to stand down. Immediately, the armed men holstered their pistols, stepping back into position. Grinding his teeth in frustration, Olaf let out a low curse. Shit. Still sweating, he adjusted his glasses from the side, his lens-like eyes scanning Kinyuan and Luka carefully. His voice was uneasy as he spoke. So all I need to do is throw that brat into a match? The glasses on his face glowed faintly as they began scanning Luka, analyzing every inch of his body. A small smirk crept onto Olaf's lips as he read the results. His arms and legs aren't combat models, and his body is still mostly organic. He'd be crushed to a bloody pulp in seconds. Turning his gaze back to Kinyuan, Olaf leaned forward, tapping his fingers against the armrest. Well, I could put him in a match, but don't you think it's only fair if you offer something in return? Kinyuan's expression remained unreadable as he leaned back. Then, with a knowing smirk, he uttered words that made Olaf's entire body stiffen. I know where Tora kept his safe. You have his eye, don't you? Olaf's glasses flickered, and he quickly adjusted them from the center this time. His breathing turned heavy. His voice was laced with suspicion as he asked, just how much do you know? I'm getting quite curious about your identity now. Kinyuan simply closed his eyes, a sly smirk on his lips. I'm just a spirit of the past. You need not worry about me. Olaf exhaled, leaning back once more, seemingly trying to regain control of the situation. If you want to spectate, I can get you a VIP seat. I'll make sure they bring the best booze, and maybe some girls too. Before he could finish, Kinyuan's eyes snapped open, his entire demeanor turning cold and unyielding. Just the booze is fine. His tone was sharp, leaving no room for negotiation. Also, this kid doesn't need any special treatment. Pair him up with your best fighter. Luka, who had been silently observing, glanced at Kinyuan, his mind racing with admiration and curiosity. I have so much to learn from him, Luka thought to himself. His gaze locked onto Kinyuan's body, noticing something strange, a faint blue aura surrounding him. His thoughts sharpened. He took control of the entire situation, without moving a muscle. He has something I lack. The tension in the room remained thick, but one thing was certain, Luka was about to enter the fight of his life. The scene shifted to the Colosseum waiting room, where a broken alarm echoed with a dull, rhythmic noise. The dim, flickering lights cast long shadows over the room. Kinyuan stood in the center, holding a small holographic device, displaying a picture of Luka's opponent. His expression remained unreadable as he finally spoke. It's in 2 hours, so get warmed up. Luka, his curiosity piqued, turned to Kinyuan. Just what was inside Tora's safe? Olaf's attitude changed instantly. Kinyuan, still focused on the screen, waved a dismissive hand. It's a hidden treasure, something valuable enough to change Olaf's life forever. Luka narrowed his eyes. And what were you planning to do if a fight broke out back there? For the first time, Kinyuan smirked slightly, turning the screen toward Luka. Ah, so that's what you wanted to know? I'll explain, after you win. As the screen flickered, a name appeared beneath the image of a towering man with thick, metallic arms. His sheer size made him look like a monster rather than a fighter. This is your opponent, Gabriel, the Steel Fist. Kinyuan continued, his tone even. The Colosseum is filled with desperate idiots who use illegal body mods, throwing away their future for short-term power. Gabriel is one of them. He doesn't care about tomorrow, only about crushing whatever is in front of him. Luka's eyes flickered with concern as he muttered, he really modded himself without thinking. Kinyuan nodded. With your current body, even a single hit from him could kill you. Raising one finger, Kinyuan's gaze sharpened as he instructed, remember what I'm about to tell you. This is the fundamental principle of the Arce's combat method. Luka locked eyes with him, curiosity growing. What is it? Kinyuan dropped his hand and spoke firmly. Be satisfied with what you have. Luka frowned, his irritation evident. I learned that being satisfied is the same as losing. Kinyuan chuckled, shaking his head. Water does not lose. It merely changes its form. He placed a firm hand on Luka's shoulder, looking at him intently. You have real potential, Luka. I've been watching you ever since you deflected that bullet without a ballistic predictor. I was surprised when you asked me to teach you. As a man with talent, you came to the right person. Luka glanced at Kinyuan's hand resting on his shoulder, his voice carrying a hint of doubt. You're giving me unfounded praise. Kinyuan smirked. Of course. This might be the last time I see you. A small, bittersweet smile formed on Luka's lips. The arena was dimly lit, with a single spotlight illuminating the center of the ring. The stands, packed with wild, unruly spectators, remained shrouded in darkness. As Luka stepped onto the battlefield, a wave of hostility crashed over him. Trash rained down, empty cans, bottles, scraps of paper. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, alcohol, and blood. The crowd roared with vicious excitement, jeering at him from above. He dares to challenge Gabriel, the Steel Fist, on his first match? Will the brat even make it home tonight? Another voice rang out, dripping with mockery. A brat still sucking his mother's teats. His name is Good Boy. As Luka walked forward, his hands buried in the pockets of his hoodie, he muttered to himself. What a shitty name. The insults only intensified. Boo, who let that fucking idiot in here? A few thumbs turned downward, while others shouted eagerly, craving the brutality that was about to unfold. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I don't mind a slaughter show. I'm hyped up. From high above, someone watched Luka in silence, his one visible hand gleaming under the lights, a steel fist catching the glow. Gabriel, the steel fist. Luka kept walking, unfazed, his thoughts growing darker. A human's dark desire to see flesh and gore torn apart. It's what's pushing me into this ring. They don't see me as a fighter. They want to see my limbs ripped off, my face mutilated. Then, an eerie smirk crept onto Luka's lips. Not bad. In fact, it's good. It means I'm finally back home. As he stepped into the ring, the cold light bathed his body, casting long shadows across the worn-down floor. With a slow movement, Luka unzipped his hoodie, letting it hang loose as he took in the crowd around him. For the first time in a long while, his lips curled into a genuine, feral smile. How have you been, you fucking losers? To be continued. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Stay tuned for the next thrilling episode.